God says, "A loved one who passed away is trying to warn you. Open this immediately before it's erased forever. A voice from the other side is calling your name." Sometimes, when the world falls quiet and your thoughts wander into the stillness of the night, there's a feeling that presses gently against your heart, a soft whisper, not from around you, but from deep within your spirit. It's not imagination, and it's not a dream. It is a sacred nudge, a tender calling, a reminder from a place we cannot see but can feel in every part of who we are. That loved one who is no longer here in body hasn't vanished into nothingness. Their love is not gone, their voice is not lost, and their presence is not erased. Through the grace of God, sometimes they reach out not to frighten, not to confuse, but to comfort, to guide, and yes, to warn us. Because love, the kind that God plants in our hearts, never truly ends. It may come as a soft chill in a warm room, or a memory that bursts into your mind so clearly you feel as though it just happened. It may be a dream so vivid you wake up feeling like you spoke face to face, or a sudden urge to change direction, to call someone, to take a pause. These moments aren't random. They're threads of grace, woven delicately by the hands of a loving God, who knows our longing and carries our pain, who understands that even though heaven is a place of peace, our hearts still ache on earth. So he allows these whispers from beyond, when our souls need to hear them most. Sometimes the warning is not loud, not urgent in the way the world teaches us to expect, but gentle like a leaf brushing against your shoulder in the wind. It's God's way, gentle yet firm. It's not to alarm you, but to awaken you, to lead you into prayer, into reflection, into safety. That loved one may have seen something you haven't noticed yet. A spiritual danger, a repeated pattern, a connection that needs mending, or a path that might harm you. They're not warning you in fear, they're loving you from a place where truth is clear and peace is whole. Type 555 if you believe. God allows these divine touches not to bring sorrow, but to show how eternal His care truly is. He created time, yet He is not bound by it. He created life, and through His Son He conquered death. In Christ, love never dies. So when someone we cherished passes into His presence, they are more alive than they ever were here. They see with new eyes, hear with heavenly clarity, and their hearts beat in rhythm with perfect love. And sometimes, with God's permission, they reach across the veil not to hold us back, but to help us forward. Maybe you've felt distant lately. Maybe your spirit has been restless. Maybe you've been walking through something heavy and silent, something you haven't shared with anyone. And in that stillness, you keep remembering someone who's gone, as though they're knocking softly at the door of your heart. That's not something to brush aside. That's a call to be still, to listen, to draw near to God. He is not the author of confusion, but the giver of wisdom, peace, and revelation. He speaks through silence, through nature, through others, and sometimes through the memories and voices of those we thought we lost. It's okay to weep. It's okay to miss them. Jesus wept too, when He stood before the tomb of someone He loved. He knows what it feels like to love deeply and to grieve deeply. He understands your pain not from a distance, but from within it. And in that holy place of sorrow, He brings beauty reminders that love doesn't die, that eternity is real, and that your story is not over. So when you feel the tug on your soul, when you sense something more stirring just beneath the surface, don't be afraid. Lean into God. Ask Him to reveal what needs to be shown. He may be using the voice of someone you cherished to speak truth to your spirit, to help you course correct, to remind you that He is near and watching over you. He may be telling you to let go of something you've been holding tightly, or to hold on to something you almost gave up on. That warning, that whisper, that message, it is not to scare you, but to protect you, to guard your soul from harm, to prepare you for what's ahead. And He does it all because you are so loved. You are not walking through life unnoticed. You are not navigating your struggles alone. Heaven is nearer than it seems, and even in your loneliest moments, There is a presence watching, guiding, and quietly urging you to draw near to the one who holds your heart. Let yourself feel the love that still surrounds you. Let yourself trust that God is working even in what you don't yet understand. Open your spirit to His direction and let peace fill the places where sorrow once lived. The voice from the other side is calling, not just for you to hear them, but for you to hear God more clearly than ever before. When someone you loved deeply has passed away, their absence can feel loud, yet their love continues to move quietly through your life, like sunlight through a closed window, still reaching, still warming, still present. Sometimes the warning you sense is not about danger in the world, but about a soft place inside your heart that needs healing. God knows how grief can harden the spirit if left unattended, and how sorrow can quietly build walls where trust once lived. So He allows remembrance, gentle impressions, and sudden stillness, guiding you to pause and breathe in His presence. This is not about fear or mystery, but about restoration. It is about God calling your attention back to what truly matters, back to faith, back to peace, back to Him. Type 1111 if you trust in God. When you remember a loved one, it is often their kindness that returns first, their laughter, their patience, or the way they made you feel safe. These memories are not random echoes. They are reminders of how God once poured His love into your life through another human heart. He does not waste love. Every act of care you received, every word spoken in tenderness, every moment of comfort was part of His design to shape you into someone who understands compassion, mercy, and grace. Even now, He uses those memories to steady you, to guide you away from bitterness, and to lead you back toward hope. There are times when you may feel urged to forgive someone, to walk away from something that drains your spirit, or to return to prayer after a long silence. That urging does not come from pressure or guilt. It comes from God's deep desire to protect your soul. He sees paths long before you step onto them. He sees the weight you carry, even when you hide it behind a smile. And when your heart grows tired, He reminds you through love that once came through a person you cherished and now flows directly from Him. Jesus taught through gentleness, through presence, and through love that meets people exactly where they are. His way has never been loud or forceful, and His voice is never rushed. When He speaks, it settles the heart rather than shaking it. So when you feel drawn inward, when you sense a quiet call to slow down, to reflect, to let go of anxiety, that is His voice reaching you. He understands the language of the brokenhearted. He speaks in ways that feel familiar because He is close and because He cares. Grief often makes people feel alone, even when surrounded by others. God sees that loneliness and steps into it with compassion. He reminds you that separation in this world is not the end of connection. Through Him, love continues, purpose continues, and life continues. The loved one you miss is not wandering, not lost, and not restless. They are held in peace, and God uses their memory not to pull you backward, but to gently guide you forward with wisdom, with humility, and with trust. Sometimes the warning is simply this: do not give up on yourself. Do not close your heart. Do not believe that your best days are behind you. God has more for you to experience, more peace to give, more joy to restore. He knows how easy it is to retreat into survival mode after loss, to move through days without truly living. That is why He reaches you in the quiet. That is why He reminds you that your life still holds meaning, direction, and beauty. Type 3333 to claim miracles. God's miracles do not always arrive as sudden changes. Often they come as slow healing, as renewed strength, as a calm that replaces anxiety one breath at a time. They arrive when you begin to trust again, when you allow yourself to hope without fear, when you choose faith even when answers feel distant. Every step you take toward peace is supported by His hand. Every moment you choose kindness over bitterness, patience over anger, and faith over despair is a quiet miracle unfolding within you. Jesus walks beside those who grieve, not ahead of them, not behind them, but with them. He does not rush healing, and he does not dismiss pain. He carries it with you until your heart is strong enough to breathe freely again. In his presence, sorrow softens, fear loosens its grip, and peace begins to grow where wounds once lived. He restores what feels broken, not by erasing the past, but by filling the present with meaning and the future with hope. They're echoes from a place beyond sight, where love still lives, where souls rest in peace, and where voices we once heard still speak, not with words, but through the gentle nudges of the heart. When someone you loved has left this world, it doesn't mean their presence has vanished. Through God's mercy, their love continues, and sometimes it reaches out not just to remind you they were here, but to protect you from something unseen. Type 222 if you feel it too. God allows these moments of connection for a reason. He knows the weight we carry after loss, the questions that sit heavy in our spirit, the longing to know that our loved ones are okay. But more than that, he knows how easily we can lose direction when we grieve. Pain has a way of clouding judgment, of pulling us into habits that numb instead of heal. So sometimes, when a loved one reaches out from the other side, it's not simply to say hello, it's to help, it's to guard you. It's to warn you about something your eyes haven't seen yet, but your soul is being prepared for. This isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace with prayer and reflection. When you feel that stirring within, that sudden need to pause or change something in your life, consider that it might not be just a passing thought. It may be a divine interruption, a holy redirection, a soul-to-soul message that only you were meant to receive. God is not far away. He is not distant. He is present in your memories, in your emotions, in your healing, and yes, even in your dreams. He uses whatever means necessary to bring your heart back to safety, to peace, and to his purpose. There are people who pass through our lives like a storm, sudden, loud, and unforgettable. And then there are those who pass through like steady light, gentle, warm, and lasting. When the latter are gone, they leave behind something more than memories. They leave behind a legacy of love that God continues to use long after they're gone. That's why you still feel them near sometimes. That's why you sometimes wake up with their voice lingering in your mind, even if they've been gone for years. Their love didn't die. Their soul didn't vanish. Through Christ, they are alive, and through God's will, they still care. You may not be able to explain it to anyone else, and that's okay. Not everything holy can be put into words. Sometimes, the most sacred things are felt, not spoken. Sometimes God's presence is recognized in what you sense, not what you see. And when your heart aches with longing, he draws close not just to comfort you, but to remind you that the bond of love is stronger than death, because he is the author of life itself. He sees your tears. He hears the questions you never speak, and he brings you messages through peace, through emotion, through moments that feel like memories returning to guide you. Type 555 if your heart is open to receive. There's no need to rush healing. There's no shame in missing someone, even after a long time has passed. Jesus never rushed those who grieved. He sat with the brokenhearted, he walked with the weary, and he listened to the ones who had no words. His love is not impatient. His care does not come with a timer. And if you're feeling drawn towards something you can't quite name, a certain stillness, a change, a decision that may very well be his spirit preparing you, speaking through that bond that death could not sever. Sometimes, a loved one who has passed is given just enough permission to help you avoid a mistake, to steer you toward truth, to protect you from something not meant for your soul. It might be the reason you suddenly feel uncomfortable with something that used to seem harmless. It might be why a door you thought you wanted to walk through suddenly feels wrong. These nudges are not accidents. They are answers to prayers you may have forgotten you prayed. God's love is complete. He does not just guide you from afar. He places people, signs, and signals around you constantly. And yes, He even lets someone who loved you deeply continue to love you from eternity. That love doesn't speak with fear, it speaks with clarity. It doesn't push or pull, it invites. And all you have to do is stay close to God's presence, stay in prayer, stay open to His peace. He will never let your heart wander without reason. He will never allow a message to reach you unless it carries His signature of care. So if your soul has felt unsettled, if your dreams have felt different, if your emotions have been louder than usual, pause and listen. Let yourself believe that not everything is coincidence. Let yourself imagine that the love you lost is now transformed into a watchful peace, surrounding you when you need it most. And above all, trust that Jesus is the one who allows these moments not to confuse you, but to confirm that you are loved far more deeply than you can understand. He is not a God of absence. He is a God who remains. Even when others leave, He stays. Even when hearts break, He holds. And when you feel like no one sees your tears, He reminds you through quiet whispers, through gentle warnings, and through the everlasting love of those who once walked beside you but now walk in glory. And sometimes, when your heart is tender and your spirit is still, He allows a voice from beyond this world to reach you, not to frighten, but to remind you that love is eternal and that nothing is ever truly lost in His hands. Type 1212 if you walk by faith. You may have felt it already, that moment when you paused without knowing why, when a memory came flooding back so suddenly it left you breathless, or when a song played and you were overcome by an emotion so strong it felt as though someone was sitting beside you again. These are not accidents. They are gentle touches from God, using the love you once knew to speak to the love that still lives in your heart. When a loved one passes away, their spirit is not erased, and their love does not fade. In God's grace, their love becomes even more powerful, no longer bound by time or distance. Sometimes, those who've crossed over are permitted to reach back to warn, to guide, to comfort. It may not look or sound like anything the world teaches you to expect. It might just be a knowing, a sudden change of heart, or an urge to check on someone or walk away from something you once chased. These nudges often come at just the right moment. You feel protected without even realizing what you've been spared from. You avoid something that might have hurt you deeply, and only later do you recognize it was never a coincidence. That's how divine love works, quietly, gently, but always on time. This is God's way. He doesn't send panic. He doesn't speak in confusion. He speaks in clarity, in peace, in calm. And often, He speaks through the lasting love of those who walked beside you in this life, and now walk with Him in the next. They haven't stopped loving you. They haven't stopped caring. They haven't forgotten your voice, your heart, or your prayers. And through God, they are able to deliver the messages you need most in moments you never expected. You might wonder, why now? Why is this feeling showing up today? Why is this memory stronger today than it was yesterday? God's timing is never random. He knows what lies ahead. He knows the road you're on and the turns you're about to face. Sometimes the warning from a loved one is not about danger, it's about direction. Maybe they're nudging you away from someone who doesn't value your heart, or toward a new opportunity that aligns with your purpose. Maybe they see how tired your spirit is, and they want you to rest, to breathe, to trust again. God understands how hard it is to live in a world where people you love can be taken away, how it leaves your heart wondering if anything is ever truly safe. That's why He offers more than just comfort. He offers connection. Through His love, the veil between heaven and earth becomes thinner than we realize, especially when our hearts are open, when we are grieving, or when we're desperate to hear something that gives us peace. He speaks into those moments and reminds us that nothing is ever truly gone that was built in love. Type yes to affirm. You may never hear their voice the same way again, but you'll feel it. You'll sense it in those moments when you suddenly know what to do, when your heart feels lifted out of nowhere, when you're protected from something you didn't even see coming. That's love. That's God's mercy. That's the whisper from the other side telling you to hold on, to stay grounded, to move forward with faith even if the path ahead looks unclear. Loss can leave you feeling like a part of yourself went missing, like a chapter of your life closed before it was supposed to. But God doesn't leave you in that brokenness. He takes every shattered piece and begins the work of restoring not just what you had, but what you still have. And He does it through the messages of love He weaves into your days. Sometimes, it's a dream that feels more real than sleep. Sometimes it's a scent that fills the air, a phrase you hear repeatedly, or an image that won't leave your heart. These are signs of love that still lingers, love that still speaks. God is never limited by death. Jesus overcame the grave so we could understand that life doesn't end when the body does. When someone passes, their spirit becomes part of the eternity Jesus promised. And in that eternity, they are not distant, they are restored, they are made whole. And from that place of peace, they carry a love that's even more powerful than before. With God's blessing, that love can reach back across time, across pain, and across doubt to let you know that you are not alone, not forgotten, not abandoned. So when your soul feels something it cannot name, don't ignore it. Sit with it, pray through it. Let yourself be open to the messages that come through peace, through stillness, through love. God will never let a message reach you that isn't for your good. He will never allow confusion where there should be comfort. And if someone you love deeply is being allowed to speak into your life again, trust that it's because God sees something you don't see yet, and He is using love to lead you forward. You are being protected more than you know. You are being watched over. And even when you feel forgotten by the world, heaven has your name written in light, in promise, and in love. What your loved one couldn't finish saying here on earth, God is allowing them to finish in ways your soul can still receive. Listen closely, not with your ears, but with your heart. That's not just grief. Sometimes, that's a message reaching through the veil, softly carried by grace, wrapped in God's mercy, meant only for you. When a loved one has passed on, they don't stop loving you. And with God's permission, sometimes they reach back, with love, with urgency, with a warning born from pure care. Type 666 if you trust Jesus. There is nothing more beautiful than the way God holds those we've lost, and still holds us close at the same time. He is the only one who can cradle a soul in heaven while comforting a grieving heart on earth. And in His goodness, He allows that bridge between worlds to remain open, just enough for love to cross it. Not in the way we might expect, not loud, not physical, not overwhelming, but through subtle divine signs, through the sudden flood of a feeling that wasn't there before, through a scent, a flicker of light, a dream that lingers with clarity, as if someone touched your shoulder while you slept. These signs are not accidents. They are reminders that you are not forgotten, that your pain is not overlooked, that heaven is not far. God knows how fragile the human heart can be after loss, how empty mornings feel when someone you loved is no longer there to greet the day with you. He understands how holidays, anniversaries, and quiet Sundays can feel heavier than any burden you've ever carried. That's why, in His divine love, He sends comfort not only through prayer and scripture, but through the memory and message of the one who still loves you from the other side. Sometimes, the warning doesn't come as a voice. It comes as hesitation, as restlessness, as an unease in your spirit that you can't explain. That's when you know it's time to slow down, to pray, to ask for clarity. Because the one who loved you deeply may be trying to tell you something they see clearly now, something you're still too close to understand. Maybe it's about a choice you're about to make. Maybe it's about someone you've allowed too close. Or maybe it's about a healing you've been putting off for too long. God works through love, and He allows those who loved you in life to still participate in your journey even after death. You might think, why me? Why would God allow this for me? Because He sees how deeply you loved and how deeply you still feel. Because your heart remains open even in its brokenness. Because your soul hasn't hardened in anger or bitterness, and He can still reach you through quiet. He knows you'll recognize the message when it comes through love. That's why He sends it through the person who loved you most, the one whose voice still brings comfort even now. And when that message comes, whether through warning or peace, it's an extension of His care, His protection, His desire to lead you safely through the storms ahead. Type 1919 to receive miracles. Miracles don't always arrive with thunder or flash. Sometimes they arrive as stillness, as a sudden peace in a moment of chaos, as a door closing before you even realized it was dangerous, as someone exiting your life without warning only for you to understand later that it was grace in disguise. That's how God works. And often those miracles are set in motion by the prayers and love of someone who is no longer physically with you, but whose spirit continues to speak your name before the throne of God. They see things now through the eyes of eternity. They know what matters. They know the traps the enemy sets, and they plead for your protection. They hope you hear them, not with your ears but with your spirit. And when you feel unsettled, when you feel something isn't right, listen. Not every discomfort is fear. Sometimes it's a spiritual alarm sent in love. That's why you must stay close to God, remain in prayer, and allow your heart to be soft enough to feel what words cannot say. You are not abandoned in your grief. You are not walking through life unseen. Heaven leans in when your soul aches. God hears your sighs and sees every silent tear. And in His compassion, He allows those you love to remain part of your story, not as ghosts, not as shadows, but as love, transformed and alive in Him. Their voice might not echo through the room, but it speaks inside of you, and it guides you toward the light when you are tempted to fall into darkness. Every step you take in faith is a step they rejoice over. Every choice you make to walk in love, to forgive, to trust again, brings healing not only to you but to the bond you still share. Love never dies. In Christ, it only deepens. It matures into something eternal, unshakable, and true. So if you feel led to let go of something or to hold tighter to something, don't brush it off. Ask God to reveal the meaning. He will not leave you without answers. He will not allow you to be led astray when your heart is set on Him. The voice calling your name is filled with urgency only because of how deeply you're loved. It's not a voice of fear. It's a voice of concern, of care, of God's mercy using a familiar tone to awaken you to truth. You are being drawn into safety. You are being reminded that heaven is real, and that everything good and holy you shared with the one you lost has not ended. It has simply changed shape, but the love remains just as strong. Let your heart be open. Let your prayers be honest. Let your spirit be still enough to hear what God is saying. You are not just being warned, you are being loved through that warning. You are being drawn back into God's arms. He is not done with your story. He is still writing it. That's not just emotion. That's the hand of God allowing a wave of eternal love to wash over you, carrying the warmth of someone who still holds you in their heart from beyond the veil. When they left this world, their love didn't vanish, it simply changed form. And when that love reaches out to you, it's not just remembrance. It's a message. Type Amen if you believe. God, in His deep compassion, knows that the heart needs more than comfort during times of loss. It needs assurance. The kind of assurance that tells you this goodbye is not forever. The kind that reminds you that heaven is real, that souls are eternal, and that love, when planted by Him, is never wasted or lost. And sometimes, when something is shifting in your life, when a choice lies ahead, when a danger quietly approaches, or when your spirit grows restless, a loved one who now stands in God's presence is allowed to send you a warning, gentle and loving, to help you stay safe, to help you stay whole. It may not be a voice that speaks out loud. It may be a thought that won't leave, a sense that you should wait before moving forward, or a sudden unease about something you once wanted. These signals are not random. They are often the quiet language of heaven, and God uses them because He knows your heart will recognize what the mind may try to ignore. The bond you shared in life doesn't break with death. If anything, it becomes more refined, less tangled by the noise of the world, and more rooted in truth, in eternity, and in purpose. Sometimes the warning comes just in time. You take a different route, cancel a plan, or walk away from a decision, and later you realize what you were protected from. You don't need to understand all the details to trust that something holy was at work. That's what faith is. Believing even when you don't see, trusting even when you don't have all the answers, and letting your heart be open to God's quiet guidance, which often comes in the most unexpected ways. God knows how fragile we become after loss, how easily sorrow can wrap itself around us and cloud our vision. That's why He sends reminders through the love of others, through stillness, and through moments where you feel the one you lost is near. He doesn't do this to make you long for the past, but to anchor you in the truth that you are still deeply loved, not only by those who are now with Him, but by Him directly. Your life is precious to God. Your pain is not ignored, and when the warning comes, it is always wrapped in love. Type 3333 if you feel surrounded by His grace. There's a sacred responsibility in listening to these nudges, not out of fear but out of reverence for the love that sent them. If someone you cherished is reaching across from heaven, it's because God knows you still carry a piece of them inside your spirit. He knows that even in your healing, you're still open to hearing what love wants to say, and He trusts that you will listen not with doubt, but with quiet faith. Not with confusion, but with a heart tuned to the gentle frequency of eternity. You may not realize it, but every time you chose kindness over anger, every time you forgave when it hurt, every time you held on when life tried to shake you, you are honoring the love that still surrounds you. You are answering that quiet call from heaven with the way you live on earth. That is the beauty of this unseen connection. It transforms grief into strength, memory into meaning, and loss into a deeper understanding of God's eternal design. When you feel that something is urging you to reflect, to slow down, or to consider a new path, take it seriously. Sit with God. Speak to Him honestly. He wants to show you what's ahead, but often He will do it gently, with care, not in chaos. And sometimes He will do it through the person you still miss, the one who now sees clearly what your heart is just beginning to understand. Their message may not be long or detailed, but it will be exactly what your soul needs at the time you need it most. Maybe they're trying to tell you to let go of something that is no longer for you. Maybe they're warning you to be cautious about a relationship, an opportunity, or even a habit that's slowly pulling you away from peace. Or maybe they're simply urging you to return to God, to reconnect, to pray more deeply, to love more fully, and to trust more completely. Whatever it is, know that the message carries no fear. Only truth, only care, only love. You're not alone in this life. You've never been. And even now, as you navigate uncertain paths, you are being guided, you are being protected. And though the face you long to see may no longer be in front of you, their spirit walks beside you. And through Jesus, you are never truly apart, because He conquered death. Love never ends. And what He joins together on earth and in eternity remains unbroken, no matter how far apart the world tries to separate. Keep your heart tender. Keep your spirit open. Let God show you the beauty of this connection, the holiness of this message. There is more for you, more healing, more purpose, more joy. You are still living, and your story still matters. But you don't walk through it alone. It often happens in the stillness when you're alone, perhaps looking out a window, watching the wind move through the trees, or lying awake at night staring at the ceiling, unsure why you feel so much. In that quiet, you might hear it not in a loud way, not through your ears, but through a gentle sense, a whisper without sound. It's not imagination, and it's not just your memory playing tricks. It's something more, something holy, something reaching out, a loved one who now dwells in peace, calling your name through the hush of the soul. And God allows it, because His love never stops speaking. Type 333 if you feel His presence near. Grief is not something we escape. It's something we carry, something we grow around. The people we've lost, the ones who held pieces of our hearts, don't disappear just because we can't see them. Their love remains tucked in every corner of our lives, in the way we laugh, the way we love, the way we remember. And sometimes, when God sees that you're standing at the edge of something important, something delicate, something that could shape your future, He allows that love to return for a moment. Not in body, but in spirit. Not through fear, but through quiet guidance, through a message wrapped in care. It may be as simple as a sudden sense of hesitation. You were about to say yes, but something inside told you to wait. You were heading toward a decision, but your chest felt tight. Your thoughts scrambled. These aren't just anxious moments. Sometimes they are sacred pauses, interruptions that come from heaven's care, because the one who once held your hand may now be kneeling before the throne of grace, asking God to help you. And He answers in whispers, in hesitations, in feelings you can't explain but cannot ignore. God is always watching, always protecting. And sometimes, the most powerful signs are the ones that feel small at first. An old photo falling from a drawer, a scent in the air you haven't smelled in years, a dream that feels more like a visit than a fantasy. These aren't just things. These are moments filled with meaning, messages that are not erased by time. They are love continuing in its purest form, allowed to break through the barrier of this world for a brief moment, just so you know you are not alone. Type 4444 if you believe love lives on. You might wonder why this is happening now. Why, after all this time, your heart feels drawn back to someone who's been gone for what feels like forever. The answer is simpler than you think. Because love doesn't fade. Because God does not allow what is good and holy to be wasted. Because, in this moment of your life, He knows you need guidance that comes from a place beyond human knowledge, from a soul who sees clearly now, from someone who once held your heart and now holds a better view. This isn't about holding on to the past. It's about recognizing that what was planted in love still bears fruit, that the connection you shared has transformed, not ended. That God, in His infinite mercy, sometimes chooses to speak through the love that shaped you to help you grow, to protect you from harm, to gently warn you before something breaks. That's not superstition. That's grace. That's the deep compassion of a God who never stops showing up, who uses even what we've lost to help us find our way. And maybe this warning is subtle. Maybe it's not a big revelation, but a quiet stirring, something that tells you to slow down. Something that tells you to think again, to pray more deeply, to let go of the thing that's been stealing your peace. When that message comes, listen with your heart. Don't rush past it. Don't explain it away. Sit with it. Ask God to reveal what you need to see. He will. He always does. And when He does, it won't be confusing. It will be clear. It will feel like truth. It will feel like love, because that's what this is, love. A holy kind of love that refuses to let you walk into harm unguarded. A love that doesn't need to be loud to be real. A love that continues to protect, to cover, to warn, to comfort even from beyond this life. And it's not just the love of the one you lost. It's God's love through them, still at work, still speaking, still reaching for your heart with gentleness and power. You may be standing at a crossroads right now. You may be wrestling with doubt, with uncertainty, with fear about what's next. Or maybe you've been running from something you know isn't right. Whatever it is, God knows. And He is not sending you this message to shame you. He is sending it because He loves you too much to stay silent. He's sending it through the echo of a familiar love, through a whisper that only your soul could understand, because He knows that's the voice you trust. So take this moment seriously. Take it prayerfully. You are being called not just to remember, but to realign, to draw near to God, to trust again, to step forward with faith instead of fear. You are not walking through this season without guidance. You are not making decisions alone. The God who created the stars has aligned everything just so you could receive this message at this very moment. Don't ignore it. Let it in. Let it bring peace where you've carried anxiety. Let it restore what pain tried to steal. Let it remind you that heaven has not stopped loving you. You can't quite explain why your heart aches in a quiet way, or why you feel as though someone is trying to get your attention. You go about your day, but there's this lingering sense like a whisper on the edge of your thoughts that someone is reaching out, that someone who once loved you dearly is still watching, still aware, and still deeply connected to your spirit. And God, in His tenderness, allows that connection to remain, because He knows how much your heart still needs it. Type 999 if you feel a shift in your spirit. There is no limit to God's love, and that includes the love He allows to pass between this world and the next. When someone we hold dear leaves this life, the world says they're gone, but heaven says otherwise. Through Christ they are more alive than ever, restored, healed, and full of peace. But even in that peace, God knows that their love for you didn't end. Love like that doesn't just stop. It transforms. It reaches through time, through space, through unseen places, and it shows up when you need it most. Maybe you've noticed the small things. A flicker of light in the corner of your eye. A dream that leaves you in tears. A song playing when your thoughts were already drifting to them. These gentle signals aren't accidents. They're threads of love, carefully allowed by God, to remind you that your story isn't unfolding alone. They're not just memories, they're messages. Messages that say, keep going, stay strong, trust what you feel deep within. Sometimes, what your loved one is trying to warn you about isn't obvious. It's not a dramatic danger. It's more subtle, a draining relationship, a decision made from fear, a path that looks right but leads to more sorrow. These gentle warnings are acts of love. They come because your soul matters, because your future is important, and because heaven still sees what your eyes cannot. That's why God allows the touch of a familiar soul to pull you gently back to Him. He doesn't want you to live afraid. That's never His way. He wants you to live aware of His presence, aware of your worth, aware of the people you allow into your life and the roads you choose to follow. And sometimes, when your heart is tender and your spirit is open, He allows someone you love to deliver the message, because He knows that's the voice you'll recognize not with your ears, but with your soul. Type 7777 if you trust God to protect you. God's guidance doesn't always come with loud signs or immediate clarity. Often it starts with restlessness, with a quiet discomfort that doesn't go away. It's that inner tension that tells you something isn't right, even when everything on the outside looks fine. That is often how the spirit moves. And sometimes, it's also how a loved one, now standing in God's perfect peace, can send a message to help you realign before a choice turns into regret. You don't need to be afraid of these feelings. They are not meant to scare you. They are sacred. They are signs of how closely heaven watches over you, how deeply God involves Himself in your life, not just in moments of worship, but in the ordinary, in your decisions, in your relationships, in your healing. He doesn't leave you to figure it out alone. He walks with you, and sometimes He lets someone who loved you dearly walk with you too. Maybe lately, you've been second-guessing a path you were once excited about. Maybe you're wondering if you've drifted too far from who you used to be. Maybe you're trying to hold on to something that's slipping away, and deep down, you know it's time to let go. These feelings don't come without purpose. They're not weaknesses. They are invitations. Invitations from God to slow down, to listen, and to let Him speak not just through words, but through presence, through silence, through the eternal love of someone who still carries your name with them into eternity. This kind of spiritual message can't always be explained to others, and that's okay. Not everyone will understand why a certain dream brought you peace. Not everyone will feel the way your heart softens when you see something that reminds you of them. This message isn't for them. It's for you. And you'll know it when you feel it, not because it makes sense to your mind, but because it brings clarity to your heart. You were never meant to live disconnected from heaven. You were made to walk closely with God, to sense His voice, to receive His love in many forms. And love is the one thing that can stretch across all boundaries, time, distance, even death. If God allowed someone you love to speak something into your spirit, it's because He sees something coming that you can't yet see, and He wants to guide you through it with care, with protection, and with love. So don't ignore the signs. Don't rush past the quiet moments. Don't silence the part of you that feels like someone is trying to tell you something. Sit with it, breathe through it, pray over it. Ask God for clarity. He will not withhold it from you. He may not answer in the way you expect, but He will answer, always, in His time, in His way, through His peace. The voice calling your name isn't lost. It has simply been changed, made holy, made eternal, made tender through God's mercy. And when it speaks, it doesn't bring confusion. It brings light. It brings truth. It brings a nudge that says, you're not alone. If you've ever stood still in the middle of your day and felt the overwhelming presence of someone who is no longer here, then you know this love. If your breath has caught suddenly, without warning, as if a memory gently tapped your shoulder, then you've already felt it whisper to you. These are not coincidences. These are not fleeting emotions. These are sacred echoes, and in them, God is speaking. Type 1010 if your heart is open to hear. God never created love with an expiration date. What He plants in the heart lasts far beyond this life. When someone who mattered to you deeply has passed, they are not removed from your story. They're simply held in a different place, safe in the presence of God, where their spirit still carries every good thing they ever gave you, and sometimes, with heaven's permission, they lean in. Not to disturb you, not to dwell in the past, but to help, to guide, to offer a warning born from love, wrapped in peace, and whispered only when your soul is still enough to hear it. This kind of message doesn't come to frighten, it comes to protect. Maybe lately, your days have felt unusually heavy. Maybe you've been feeling uncertain about someone, or confused about a decision. Maybe you've sensed something that doesn't sit right, but you can't quite explain why. These subtle tugs on your spirit aren't just emotions passing through, they are invitations from heaven. A reminder that your path is being watched over, not only by the God who formed you, but by a soul who once stood beside you and now sees clearly from eternity. Sometimes you feel it in the simplest of things, a bird that appears at your window, a sudden breeze in a still room, a dream that lingers long after the morning comes. God uses what's familiar to speak truth into your heart. The one who once loved you in this life may now be calling out to you, not through fear, but through a sacred urgency, a message only your heart would understand. One meant to wake you gently before you drift too far from what's right, or before you fall into something that might hurt you more than you know. Type 6666 if you believe in God's protection. It's important to understand that God is always in control. Nothing passes between this world and the next without His will allowing it. So when you sense your loved one reaching out, understand that this isn't a random moment. It's been allowed for a reason. Maybe you've been carrying too much, and they see it. Maybe you're about to trust someone who doesn't deserve your heart, and they want to shield you. Or maybe you've forgotten how loved you are, and they've been allowed to remind you, not in loud ways, but in quiet ones that reach deeper than words. God uses the people we've loved to teach us even after they're gone. Their life, their words, their care, all of it becomes a thread in the fabric of who we are. But He also lets their love linger, because real love doesn't have to be present in the room to be powerful. It only needs to be alive in the spirit. And when that love rises up inside you and gives you pause, that's the moment to be still and listen. Your soul knows more than your mind can explain. And when it speaks, it's not always with clarity at first. Often it begins as restlessness, as a question you can't answer, or a sense that something is about to change. That's when it's time to pray. Not out of fear, but out of openness, because God responds to the heart that listens. He honors the soul that remains soft, and He blesses those who take seriously the whisper of love that comes through the stillness. You don't need to explain these things to others. You don't need to convince anyone else that what you're feeling is real. This message isn't for them, it's for you, because you were the one who shared a bond with the person who's calling out. You were the one who prayed beside them, who loved them in moments both joyful and broken. And now they are part of a realm where truth is seen clearly, and they want to help you avoid what could cause pain, and instead walk toward the light of healing and peace. There's power in acknowledging the voice you feel but cannot hear. There's strength in accepting that sometimes heaven sends help in the form of a familiar love. You are not being left to walk blind. You are being gently turned in the direction of grace. And even if the road ahead still holds uncertainty, know that you're not stepping into it alone. God is with you. His Spirit surrounds you. And the ones who loved you most now love you from a place of perfect peace. They don't want to haunt your steps. They want to bless your path. They don't want to keep you in sorrow. They want to remind you that you are still alive for a purpose, and that purpose is not yet complete. So when the air feels different, when the light shifts, when your heart suddenly remembers something you hadn't thought about in years, don't brush it off. Don't run from it. Lean into it. Let it guide you back to prayer. Let it lead you back to God. Let it shape your next choice with wisdom instead of fear. Maybe you've felt that kind of silence, the kind that sits in your chest like a memory that hasn't yet found words, the kind that follows a long sigh, or fills the room after you think about someone you loved who's no longer here. It can come suddenly without reason, and all at once, the air feels different, your heart feels heavier, and your spirit feels like it's listening for something just beyond the veil. In that stillness, something holy often stirs. That's where God meets you. That's where love reaches out, softly and silently. That's where the ones we've lost are sometimes allowed to speak again, not in voice, but in the language of the soul. Type 88888 if you know love never dies. God sees every part of your journey, your heartbreak, your healing, your moments of confusion, and your quiet strength. He knows how often you carry your grief silently, not because you've forgotten, but because you remember too deeply. The one you lost, the one who carried a part of your heart with them, didn't vanish into the past. Through God's love, they are held in eternity, not in sorrow but in peace. And because love is never wasted in God's kingdom, sometimes He lets that love brush against your life again. It doesn't come with thunder or flashes of light. It comes with warmth, with presence, with a feeling so familiar it makes you pause and say, I know that love. There's beauty in that kind of message. It doesn't demand your attention, it gently invites it. It doesn't shout over your day, it waits for a quiet moment, when your heart is open and your thoughts are still. And when it comes, it's not just to stir memories, it's to deliver something important, a soft warning, a bit of wisdom, a sign that says, be careful, or be brave, or slow down. The message isn't always detailed, but it's always filled with care. Maybe lately you've felt unsure. Maybe there's something in your life that doesn't sit quite right, even if you can't explain why. Maybe you've been carrying a feeling that something is coming, something unseen. That's not fear talking. That might be a message from heaven, one sent not to startle you, but to bring you back to center, to protect what's sacred in you, to remind you that even though you cannot see what's ahead, God can. And sometimes, in His love, He lets someone you've lost stand just close enough to speak into your heart. You're being guided. Type 22222 if you trust God's timing. Every time your heart quickens for no reason, every time your eyes water when you hear a certain song, every time a chill brushes your skin while you're sitting alone, don't be so quick to dismiss it. You live in a world where the spiritual and the physical are not as far apart as they seem. God walks beside you, and so do the prayers of the ones who loved you and now stand in His presence. Those who once held your hand here on earth still reach for you in spirit. Their hands, now lifted in prayer, intercede on your behalf, not out of worry, but out of love. Maybe the warning is gentle, but urgent. Maybe you're being protected from someone who doesn't have your heart in mind. Maybe you're being redirected before you pour your spirit into something that will only leave you feeling empty. Or maybe you're being reminded that you've strayed a bit too far from the path you once knew and now it's time to come back. Whatever it is, the message always points to peace, always points to God, always speaks with a love that knows your soul. God doesn't send confusion. His messages may be quiet, but they are never unclear when we listen in prayer. He draws us close through peace, through conviction, through whispers that align with His truth. And when you are still, when your spirit is calm enough to feel the difference, you'll know when something is more than a feeling. You'll know when it's a heavenly message carried by the memory of someone who loved you deeply, someone who sees clearly now what you're walking through. You don't need to fear these signs. They are not haunting, they are healing. They are not meant to tie you to the past. They are meant to protect your future. That's the power of divine love. It moves forward, it watches over, it doesn't fade, it deepens. And sometimes when God allows it, that love becomes the very thing that keeps you from walking into harm, from falling into sorrow, from forgetting who you are. This isn't your imagination. It's your spirit responding to something real, something from above, something full of grace. You've never walked alone, even in your hardest moments, even in your questions, even in the silence. God has been near, and so has that soul you loved. The one who now understands everything clearly, the one who prays that you'll stay the course, choose the right path, and listen when love calls your name again. So take a breath, let yourself feel what you need to feel. You are not weak for sensing something others may not see. You are not foolish for believing there's more to this life than what's visible. You are spiritually awake. You are being spoken to. You are being loved. There comes a time when your soul begins to recognize what your eyes cannot see and your ears cannot hear. You begin to sense something real, something soft but powerful moving through your life, not with noise but with presence. Maybe it happens when the night grows still and your thoughts begin to drift to someone you once held close, someone whose voice you haven't heard in a long time, but whose love still rests quietly in your heart. Or maybe it's in the middle of a busy day, when everything should feel fine, but a sudden wave of emotion rushes over you and you can't explain why. In those moments, something holy is happening, something eternal. A voice from the other side is reaching for you, not to haunt you, but to help you, not to bring sorrow, but to protect your spirit from harm. Type 111 if you believe God sends help when we need it most. God, in His perfect love, doesn't forget how deeply you loved. He doesn't overlook how broken your heart felt the day you lost someone who meant everything. He doesn't ignore your quiet prayers, the ones you whisper with tear-filled eyes, asking if your loved one is okay, if they know how much you miss them, if they're still with you in some way. And because God's love is never limited by time or space, sometimes He answers those prayers through moments that seem small, yet carry eternal weight, a sudden memory that brings warmth. A dream so vivid it feels more like a visit, a moment of silence that somehow speaks louder than words. These are not just emotions, these are divine gifts. You see, heaven doesn't operate by the rules of this world. Love, once placed into the care of God, becomes everlasting. The one you loved is not lost. They are with Him, and from that place of peace they see clearly. They know more than they ever did in life. And sometimes they are allowed to step near again to watch over you, to send a message, to warn you with a whisper you'll only hear when your spirit is quiet and your heart is open. That warning might not come as a voice you recognize. It might come as restlessness when you're about to make a decision. It might come as a wave of unease about a situation that looked right on the surface. Or it might come as a strange sense of peace guiding you away from something you once thought you wanted. These moments are not confusion. They are love in motion. They are God's way of reminding you that nothing goes unseen. That even when you feel alone in your choices, you are not walking blind. Type 777 if you believe in God's voice above all. Sometimes the warning is not to stop you from doing something wrong, but to protect your soul from being slowly drained by something that looks harmless. Sometimes it's about relationships that feel good at first, but slowly pull you away from God's peace, or opportunities that promise joy, but cost too much of your spirit, or even paths you've walked for too long out of fear, paths God is calling you away from because He has something better, something safer, something more rooted in truth. When your loved one reaches out in these moments, it's because they see clearly now, not just your circumstances, but your heart, your exhaustion, your struggle to hold it together when no one else sees the burden you carry. They've stood in that place before, and now, from the other side, they are trying to tell you what they wish they could have seen while they were still here. Be careful. Don't ignore your heart. Turn back before it's too late. These messages don't come to bring fear, they come to bring life, and they only come when God knows you're ready to hear them. It's okay if you've missed these signs before. God is patient. He will keep reaching. He will keep calling your heart through the language of peace. And He'll often do it using the one you still think about late at night. Because your heart is still open to their love, and because that love was always more than just earthly affection, it was a glimpse of the divine. And God is not done using it for your good. He may be calling you right now to pause, to step away from something that's been taking more than it gives, to protect your heart from a decision you're not meant to make, to remind you that you are still held, still guided, still cherished. The voice you feel reaching for you in the stillness may not say many words, but its meaning is clear. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. Heaven still has its eyes on you. This message, this warning, is a sign of deep love. It's not a punishment. It's a protection. It's a covering. It's an answer to prayers you may have whispered through tears, or may not have known how to pray at all. The Spirit of God knows your heart, even when you don't have the words. And the love you shared with the one who's gone still lives on in His presence. Let yourself believe it. Let yourself receive it. There is no shame in still longing for the one you lost. There is no weakness in feeling like they're near. When it aligns with peace, when it leads you back to God, when it brings clarity instead of confusion, that's when you know it's not just memory, it's a message. One that says, keep going, don't give up, let go of what's hurting you, trust the path that brings you peace. The voice calling your name is real, it's sacred, it's sent not from this world, but from the one who holds the world in His hands. And through that voice, God is saying, I see you, I'm guiding you, and the one you miss so much is safe with me, but they're still watching over you, still loving you, still speaking when you need it most. Not with loud announcements, not with flashes of certainty, but with quiet moments that linger in the heart long after they've passed. A feeling, a thought, a memory that carries warmth. You could be sitting in complete silence or walking down a familiar road, and then suddenly you feel them. That one person. The one who meant the world to you. The one who left far too soon. Their presence doesn't come with sound, but you feel it just as clearly. You pause, breathe deeply, and though no one else sees anything, your soul knows something holy is near.